We're back here, Jeff Crouere here, and very pleased to have with us another special guest who is here with us as we broadcast from the Marriott Courtyard, blocks away from the Capitol and the White House as we're here for the big inauguration. Very pleased to have with us Louisiana State Senator Sharon Hewitt is here. And Senator, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Jeff.
Good to have you on the program with us. And so when did you get up here, and what do you think so far?
Well, we arrived Tuesday, my husband and I, and we spent some time actually in a few meetings and doing a little bit of touristy work. So it's been fun. Monuments and meetings, as Stan likes to say.
So what do you want to see first tackled by our Republican leadership? Because now, for the first time in many years, we've got a Republican Congress and a Republican president.
And isn't that terrific that they have such a great opportunity now to move legislation that we have wanted to move in a very long time? So Obamacare clearly is at the top of the list, and we know that that is something the president and the Congress is working on. And that affects the state of Louisiana as well. It affects all of us. And, you know, one of the things that I have been really concerned about is Medicaid expansion and the cost of that. Mm-hmm. It's great to have folks covered in health care, but it has to be affordable, and it's anything but affordable. And so as a new state that has gone into Medicaid expansion, as you know, our governor did that on his second day in office, I am deathly afraid of the cost of that, because so many other states that have expanded previous to us have already experienced exploding cost. And so, you know, as a member of the Senate Finance Committee, I'm very concerned about the budget and the numbers, and believe that the work that Congress is going to do is going to make it more affordable, and I'm hoping it doesn't shift more of the burden to the states.
State Senator Sharon Hewitt is with us and talking about our own budget problems in Louisiana. We're talking about now a potential special session, if I'm not mistaken. Is that a definite now?
Well, it's not definite until the governor actually declares it, but it sure sounds like that's his intention.
So I'm surprised to see you here. I thought you might be on his junket to Rome, maybe to see the Pope. I didn't know if maybe you had been invited to join him in Rome, because I know he's got this big trip that he's doing. And I know some of your colleagues are there, if I'm not mistaken, right?
A few of my colleagues are there. The irony of the whole thing was that that trip was announced on the day that the Revenue Estimating Conference officially declared our state to have a $300 million budget deficit, and yet here's this big trip to Italy. And so the irony didn't miss many of the media either, and so I think that they readjusted their thoughts on how to fund that trip, and I'm very grateful that they did.
So a lot of it will be funded personally. I guess we're going to still have to incur some costs. So we're still going to have to pay for the security detail. So it's not going to be cost-free for the taxpayers.
No, it's not. And it sends, my biggest concern is it sends the wrong message to our citizens and to those that are managing the state's budget within their own agencies. You know, you can't be taking those kinds of trips that aren't, I mean, this is not the year to be doing that. And we need to manage every dollar, and to see, if I worked in state government, which I guess I do, but with an agency, I would be completely floored that the administration is taking trips to Cuba and trips to Italy and who knows what's next, when the business is in Baton Rouge.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I think it sent the wrong message completely. And, you know, if he's interested in dealing with the human trafficking issue, he could just go down to Covenant House and talk to Jim Kelly down there. We know that there's a corridor from Houston to New Orleans. He could go to Houston. I mean, you know, he doesn't have to go to Italy to discuss that problem. I thought that was sort of a poor excuse for what is obviously a junket.
Well, I agree, and human trafficking is a very important issue, but I don't think that we have to go to Rome to learn about human trafficking and to get their ideas on what we can do about it.
Sharon Hewitt is with us, Louisiana State Senator, and of course, we're looking at continuing problems. I hear that one of the solutions will be possibly a gasoline tax. I'm hearing that being floated. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, it's another tax, and we all would love to be able to build more roads and bridges, and we have a huge backlog of projects that need to be addressed. But what my constituents say is that until we can demonstrate that we have done more and done better with the dollars they have already given us, they're not interested in giving us more money. And I think that's wise advice. That's exactly what our family businesses are doing every day. That's what our families do every day. There are ways still to be more cost effective. And one of the things I've asked the secretary, for example, is, what is the cost per mile to build a road in Louisiana, a state road? That's your core business. We ought to know stone cold, what does it cost to build a road? Because my next question then would be, well, let's benchmark with other states and with industry. How do we measure up? And until you do that, you really don't know if you're the best of the best, and look at ways, unconventional ways or whatever, to do things better. There's so many opportunities, Jeff. We over-engineer everything that we do. It takes 10 years to build a road, no matter what, whether you're widening I-12 or you're building a turn lane in Slidell. And we can't do that anymore. We need to.
Or that 190 renovation that was done in Mandeville, that seemed to last forever. I know that was way over budget and delayed. And as you say, everything seems to be so time intensive to get things done.
And that's part of the other problem that we have is a lot of crazy regulations that really aren't making the roads any safer or enough protecting the environment. And one of the things that I love about our President-elect Trump is his talk about eliminating burdensome regulations. We are balled up in regulations, whether it's building roads or in my industry, in the oil and gas industry. We are so overregulated, and it is not adding any safety or protecting the environment. It's just adding a huge cost to business, and that is absolutely one of the things I'm most excited about our new president.
I am too, and State Senator Sharon Hewitt is with us. Jeff Crouere here. It's ringside to be a GSO, broadcasting from Washington here as we get ready for the inaugural, about 24 hours away. And Senator, you mentioned oil and gas industry. I think this is going to be a president that's going to be very sympathetic, very supportive of the oil and gas industry. We've just finished 8 years where we really haven't had a good relationship, have we, between the oil and gas industry and the administration?
Oh, it's even worse than just not having had a good relationship, Jeff. I mean, they have looked over the last 8 years at ways to dismantle the dependency of our country on fossil fuels. And, I support all the other alternative forms of energy, and we do need to develop other things. I'm an all of the above kind of a person. But fossil fuels is absolutely going to be in our future for a very long time. And we don't have the wherewithal yet or the capacity with all the other alternative forms of energy to deliver the requirements of our country in terms of energy. And it is such a big part of the Louisiana economy. The Economist this past week talked about the single biggest reason we have the budget deficit we do in the state of Louisiana is because we have lost 26,000 jobs this year, and largely in the mining industry, which is the oil and gas business. And until we figure out in our state what we can do to add jobs and grow the economy, we're just going to continue to be managing from one crisis to the next, from one budget shortfall to the next. The long-term game is obviously it's broadening the tax base and bringing more jobs into our state. And so I'm going to use that as the test on all the legislation that I look at this next session and legislation that I'm going to propose. My test is, does that create jobs? Is that going to grow the economy long-term? And the oil and gas industry is definitely such a big part of our state that we need to do everything we can to encourage investment in Louisiana.
A few quick questions here before we conclude, and want to thank Senator Hewitt for joining us. We've seen a little bit of an uptick in the price of oil. That helps us a little bit with our budget problems, right?
It does. For every dollar that the price of oil increases per barrel, we gain somewhere between $10 and $12 million in mineral revenue. But that's a drop in the bucket compared to the domino effect in our economy of having jobs in our state and the service industries and all the things that does. You don't have to look very far to look at some of the coastal areas that are home to the oil and gas business to see how much they're suffering. And
Well, I had read a report where of all the cities in the nation that have experienced the worst job loss, 3 of the top 5 are in Louisiana: Lafayette, Houma, and Shreveport. I mean, that's pretty significant.
that's very significant, all with significant oil and gas industry driving their economies. And so that absolutely has to be our focus. And again, part of what I've been doing since I've been in Washington and came a day early is talking to our legislative delegation and some energy executives about the regulations on the federal level that are deterring investment in the offshore Gulf of Mexico. Even though that revenue doesn't come directly to the state, those jobs are in our state, and it is driving our economy.
That's okay, because your district is more than just Slidell, correct?
Yes, I represent basically the eastern half of St. Tammany, so somewhere around Lacombe East. So I've got Pearl River, Slidell. I have about half of St. Bernard, the east bank of Plaquemine, and a little bit of New Orleans East. But, you know, as one of 39 senators, I am all in. And so anyone across the state can reach out to me.
Great.
Those in my parish, of course, if I represent part of St. Tammany, I represent all of it.
That's great. Well, Angelo, thanks for that question, that comment. And this is a year, Senator, that we're going to start getting some of those oil royalties, right, from the federal government, where I think they're estimating it's about 140 million or something will be coming in.
Yes, they're called Go Mesa dollars is the acronym for that. Mm-hmm. And yes, that is dedicated money to coastal restoration projects in our state that will be done basically using the priorities that have been established with the master plan that CPRA manages. I actually serve on several committees related to that. And so it's very exciting. I'll add to you that to the tune of a couple of $100 million, the majority of the coastal restoration dollars that are coming into our state come through the oil and gas industry.
And also we've got BP, and some of that money is coming in to Louisiana this year. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Mm. You know, we're looking at roughly spending $1 billion a year for the next 50 years on coastal restoration in the state of Louisiana. So it is, first of all, it's going to generate a lot of jobs, which I love that. And of course,
my son's an environmental engineer major, so that'll be good.
He's got a home and a job in Louisiana, no doubt, when he finishes. It's a huge industry. It's exploding because we have such great needs, and we're developing so much technology right here in our state.
That's exciting, and that's a positive thing to end on. And Senator, thank you very much. We'll be talking to you as we get closer to this session and learn more about everything we're going to have to tackle up in Baton Rouge.
It's been my pleasure, Jeff, and have a great time for these remaining couple of days.
I know. We're excited to be here, and thanks so much for being with us. We'll come back, folks, and wrap it up next right here on Ringside on WGSO.